little bit more time to get folks in, and then we'll get started. Hoping to go 30, 45 minutes or so today, share some information, um, take some questions, answer some questions we've been getting this week, and take some questions from the audience. You can send your questions to ICSD information using the chat feature. And you can always use Let's Talk to share with us. Again, we're letting folks in. We'll give it another 15 or 20 seconds. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Again, we're taking questions. We're going to present some information, some new information first, and then address some questions that are out there. And we hope we've heard the feedback. Folks want these sessions to be efficient and effective, and 45 minutes or less. We will try our best to keep it between 30 and 45 minutes today and get a lot of information out there. And again, you can always email. People are emailing. Use Let's Talk. Email myself, Lily, directly. Call us, whichever works best for you. And with that, let's get started to honor everyone's time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My name is Lubell Brown. I have the honor and pleasure and privilege of serving as superintendent of schools here. And I'm joined with my good friend and colleagues, Lily Talcott and Carrie Burke. Lily's our deputy superintendent and Carrie's our coordinator of health and wellness. And this is the third iteration of these sessions. We were together in June and then again in July and back again here in August as we are talking about our plans for reopening our schools, reopening our school buildings. As folks may have heard, we had to make an adjustment to our academic calendar. We said early on, we said back in March, we said in June, we said in July, we're saying it again. This is a very fluid situation. And based on the information we receive, which happens, there was new information daily, new guidance daily, we were needing to adjust our plans. Folks may have heard that on Tuesday evening, our Board of Education approved a new academic calendar, and that's a significant shift. We've been planning to start school in September with in-person and virtual distance learning experiences based on family choice. We're needing to delay that option. We're joining a growing list of school districts, small, large, medium-sized school districts all over central and upstate New York this week. And I won't name the names, you can just do a Google search. Folks are having to delay their plans for in-person instruction. And unfortunately, we're one of those school districts. We have adjusted our academic calendar to include early 5 professional development days. I'm so looking forward to getting back with our staff. Our emergency closure last year prevented us from doing professional development in the ways that we can scale our approaches to distance learning. We can scale our approaches to in-person learning. So those 5 days will be the first time we've had all of our folks back together since we've closed back in March. So we're looking forward to those 5 days of professional development. We will start a distance learning approach. We will start with every student in a virtual learning environment beginning on September the 14th. And that is a change. We had hoped to start with, again, with some young people in person and some virtually earlier than that. But in a minute, we'll talk about the reasons why we've needed to make some shifts. So distance learning will start September the 14th. In-person learning, and we're planning for this. We need to do this, y'all. And we'll talk about how our community can support us in making this happen. We hope to start in-person learning for those who've chosen it on October the 5th. Why are we making this shift? And it's been a long week for me, and folks who tuned in on Tuesday, the staff who tuned in on Monday, they found me in a very emotional place because this is not a decision that I wanted to make or be a part of. I want our young people back. I wanted our young people back on March the 15th of last year. And then every day our young people are not in our buildings. It's not good. We're doing everything we can to get them back into our spaces. There are a number of reasons why we can't do this early September in our spaces. One, we're experiencing some significant staffing and scheduling challenges. All school districts are having the same issues. We are not immune to that. We were unique and rather bold in our approaches to offering some choice, the kind of choice we offer to all families and the kind of choice we're offering to staff, some of our staff members. And that is creating some challenges that we're working through. We're confident that we can continue to work on those and come to some solutions here in the near future. we heard from folks who've tuned in. I'm looking at the list of folks who are on this call. Many of you have been telling us since we started this conversation back in June that the mobility and transitions in our communities, is going to bring folks pause. Folks want us to monitor the data. They want us to slow down before opening up our buildings, to monitor what's going to happen in Ithaca, New York. Other small city school districts like us who have a community as mobile as us are experiencing the same issue right now. So we are gonna, we've heard the feedback. We're talking with folks. We will monitor the data a bit longer before opening up our buildings in our spaces. Our school district, and I keep saying like every other school district, but this is true. Our school district is like many others who are attempting to significantly upgrade our HVAC systems. We will not open up our buildings until our HVAC systems are as good as they've ever been, or better than they ever been, frankly. To do that, we need to have these MERV 13 filters in. We've talked about those. Every school district in the country is trying to get their hands on those filters, and it's created quite a bit of a backlog. Initially, we thought we could get them in prior to the beginning of school and installed. And it still may be possible, according to the date we had originally planned to be back in school, but it would be risky. We can't take that risk. This additional time allows us an opportunity to make sure we get those filters in and installed. Those supply chain demands and delays are similar to what our construction managers and architects are experiencing as well. We have capital project delays. Our septic system at Caroline, significant delays at Ithaca High School are examples of some of the capital project delays that are keeping our buildings from being in the optimal condition to open up our schools. So those are the reasons why. I've heard it from folks since Tuesday. Folks are wondering, did any one of these contribute more than the other? Any one of these reasons could have contributed to us delaying the start of our school year. I know I've grown up and lived in an academic community all my life. I know folks wish to rank and sort and grade the reasons why. There is no ranking order here. They're all significant challenges that our school district, our board is navigating. We hope to bring some resolution and to mitigate all of them in the coming weeks and months. But again, we had to make some adjustments, and I'm here to say we are working to get our young people back. We're working to have the experience to be great for all young people. And we're going to talk about what that experience is going to look like. And we're going to focus on virtual learning today. And much of this is going to be new for folks who are tuning in. If you've tuned in for all the other sessions, you're going to hear some new things. And this talk is going to walk us through our reopening plans and how we've evolved since the last time we've talked. Ms. Talkid.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, and thank you everyone who's joining us this evening. If you've joined us before, you know that we have 4 pillars for reopening: culture, physical and environmental health and safety, social, emotional, and academic learning, and communication. Our first pillar is culture. We're going to talk about each of these in terms of what's new in relationship to them, right? So our first pillar of culture, we're really working with our community to establish new norms around how we interact and how we connect with and implement health and safety measures. So you'll see at the top of our website on that red banner, if you click on Reopen ICSD Gallery, you'll note that there are a number of hashtags, and there is essentially an ad campaign, a crowdsourced ad campaign. We're asking folks throughout our community to help us build this culture of mask wearing, the importance of school, and our own actions, our own independent actions that serve the collective good in terms of stopping the spread of COVID-19.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Carrie Burke. For those of you who may have joined late, I'm the coordinator of health services and wellness for the district. With respect to health and safety, there have been some important decisions and determinations made with respect to physical distancing, as well as procurement of resources to support those activities. So beginning with travel to and from school, we have established practices to support physical distancing. Students on our buses will be seated, 1 student per bus seat. Those living in the same household may be seated together and encouraged to do so to allow for additional riders to be transported. If greater physical distancing is available on a bus, we certainly will engage in just that, seating students every other seat or even further apart. Similarly, we're staggering dismissal and arrival, which is something we've discussed before, but have identified opportunities to effectively do that during the course of arrival and dismissal. With respect to our buildings, we have planned and are planning to limit contact and movement within the building. We've identified cohorting practices at the elementary and middle school level and block scheduling at the high school. We're staggering use of common spaces like cafeterias and playground, and we're leveraging our 1 million square feet of space that's available throughout the district. Since we last talked, we've conducted walkthroughs of our school sites and tested our estimates by actually setting up classrooms to ensure that we can provide students with 7 feet of physical distancing. We are procuring classroom furniture. The images you see here, they have a smaller footprint to support seamless and child-centered room configurations. And where we're unable to ensure physical distancing, we are investing in polycarbonate barriers for school reception and office areas. Our district has been successful in procuring needed resources to support health and safety. PPE, much of it already on site in inventory, and others to be received in the next few weeks, such as adult and pediatric masks, gloves, face shields, and gowns. In terms of hygiene, you may have seen one of the 30 outdoor sinks that have been distributed across our school sites. And in our buildings, we have available both wall-mounted and personal hand sanitizer dispensers. Again, since we last met, we recently contracted with one of our current vendors to make available a mobile or web-based application to facilitate and support screening in the home setting of students prior to their arrival in our buildings. The use of this application will allow us to identify students who have not completed screening for any number of reasons in their home, and we will do so as they arrive to school. With respect to facilities and our HVAC systems, we are considering ventilation across all of our settings, including our buses. So for example, here you see an image of one of our school buses with the emergency hatch open. When outside temperatures are above 45 degrees Fahrenheit, our buses will transport students with the hatches or windows slightly open to increase ventilation. We're working with a number of vendors to support the assessment, remediation, repair of our HVAC systems and procure materials like our MERV 13 filters in order to upgrade and improve upon our existing HVAC systems. Thanks, Carrie. Again, if you've tuned in before or you've read our reopening plan, you know that we have spoken in some depth around distance learning, but we have even more details to share this evening. Defined schedules are currently being developed, and our task force and others are hard at work really nailing those down and further defining those. Synchronous and asynchronous learning opportunities will be provided, and we'll go through some sample schedules shortly in order to really give you a clear window into what that may look like. Again, synchronous learning opportunities are those live real-time learning experiences, and asynchronous learning can be done anytime. Additionally, small group work is part of our upcoming distance learning plan. So that means that students will work with peers together and with teachers in smaller groups of peers. Additionally, our Google Meet platform that allows for video conferencing is going to permit small group breakout sessions, which with much more ease. It's going to support that pedagogical practice. You know that relationships are key, and our task force has provided excellent recommendations around really building those relationships. As we further define those schedules,
Our students who have individualized education plans and 504 accommodation plans, their case managers, master educators of inclusion, and others will be working with each individual family to ensure a virtual learning plan that will support the implementation of that IEP or 504 in the distance learning environment. As we spoke earlier, peer interactions we know are key. We've heard feedback loud and clear that those are vital. We continue our summer program of food service pickup. That will be throughout the school district. That will be offered to families. Technology implementation will continue, so that deployment of iPads for all of our pre-Kers and our first graders will be happening prior to September 14th. And we are working with families to identify their internet service needs. And lastly, materials delivery will continue pre-K through 12th grade for those hands-on materials that need to continue to support learning. Let's walk just for a moment through a potential day in the life of distance learning and what that may look like. So I may wake up in the morning and join in on a morning meeting if I'm an elementary student. I may wake up in the morning and jump on my first period class or my home base if I'm a secondary student, right? So it might be a digital experience, right? Then I may transition to something that's a little more asynchronous, right? It's not live, so my friends wouldn't necessarily be on that call with me. And I might be working on a project, doing a little bit of reading and some research, and then creating something, say in my social studies class. Now this is a screenshot of Canvas. Many of you have heard about this. All of our students in grades 6 through 12 will have access to this. There will be more information coming out to families and to kids. And of course with our educators as well. And it's essentially one-stop shopping for distance learning, for learning, right? It houses everything you would need, right, as a learner, and it can serve as a communication tool as well for families. There's everything from assignments to grading, and allows students to engage in self-assessment as well. For our younger students, asynchronous learning may look like completing a hands-on project, or it could be, again, accessing digital tools, something like Zern, which is a math product that we utilize. Students also may be engaged in hands-on learning. So this is an example. A big shout out to Dave Buckner at DeWitt, where he ensured that our middle school students had these Solar Sprint car kits in order to create their very own cars as part of hands-on technology distance learning. So asynchronous learning doesn't necessarily always have to be paper and pencil or on a screen. It can also be hands-on as well. Then a student may engage in further small group work, maybe a reading group, perhaps another whole class experience that may be digital throughout the day. So let's break it down by specific schedules. So here's an example of a third grade distance learning student's experience. Everything that you see in yellow is synchronous or real time, right? And this might just be a given day, right? It may look different on another day. I certainly don't want families to think this is precisely what every third grader is going to experience. It's simply a snapshot of a possibility. You might wake up in the morning, again, morning meeting, and then transition immediately to a small group math lesson with my teacher. I may then have a math and science project where I'm creating something and perhaps engaging in some independent math practice. Then transition to a whole group lesson, again on Google Meet, and then my teacher may pull me for a smaller group, or may do some guided reading lessons around, say, comprehension or fluency. I may eat lunch at home. I may engage with PE, art, or music. That might be synchronous and included within my regular class, right? Or it could be standalone and asynchronous. And then I may end the day with an ELA or English language arts and social studies project. Again, just a snapshot, a possibility of what it could potentially look like. At 8th grade, we're looking at an A day and a B day schedule, but every day having home base. So kids start with that social emotional connection with their teachers, right? Each class is going to be 1 hour long, right? And it's going to be synchronous. So on A days, I may have English language arts, right? And on B days, I may have art class, that first 9:15 to 10:15 period. Right? And then again, transitioning throughout the day. And then on Wednesdays, office hours, asynchronous learning opportunities, hands-on learning, things like labs, and those more informal connections through office hours for students and families will take place. The high school, if I'm an 11th grader, again, similarly an A day and a B day with larger chunks of time, right? So these 88-minute blocks, the combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning and office hours as well. And again, working through the day in a typical 8-period day over the course of 2 days. So you have longer periods of time to engage in the distance learning and through the various platforms. Our educators are currently engaged in a great number of professional development opportunities. And so an example of one right now, we have an introduction into blended learning that's running right now, and staff can take that synchronously or asynchronously as well. And we're really focusing on leveraging those technology tools in order to help students curate and create. Additionally, we are focused on professional development around anti-racist and culturally responsive practices and integrated social emotional learning. And all of those will be the key focus areas for our beginning professional development those first few days. We also continue to plan for in-person teaching and learning, and we wanted to make sure that you all still understood that, right? That we are, of course, continuing to do things like partner with the Ithaca Children's Garden to explore outdoor learning spaces and really define those, and that we are continuing to find those connections between digital spaces and physical spaces, and really how to maximize learning in both.
Our last pillar, communication, is continuous and iterative. You may have seen this information previously. I just want to draw your attention to the Reopen ICSD team, which is a new element. We are looking to form a stakeholder group that's representative of all the vested parties in our district, persons within and outside the district. And the idea is to further drive our reopening planning efforts to potentially attend to those things that are beyond the guidance, that reflect, again, the values and priorities of our community. So more information about that will be coming out soon. As always, we encourage you to engage with us around reopening. Please reach out, send an email to ICSD Communications or your building principal. Use the Let's Talk portal to share your feedback, questions, and comments. Feel free to call and leave a message. It's important that we continue this dialogue now and throughout the school year.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Lily. We're going to transition into a lightning round. There's so many great questions coming in, and many of them is just about information and getting that out there. First and foremost, we are planning to come back in person on October the 5th. I need to stress that again. That is the plan right now, to come back on October the 5th. We are still offering AP and honors courses. There's rumor out there about us moving away from that. I can't imagine it. us moving away from our AP and honors offerings. So there's no truth to that rumor. Can you change? If you've made a selection early, can you change? Yes. We've always said, if you wish to change your preference or your wish, as far as in-person or virtual, you can do so. Just let us know. We have made that adjustment for folks already and continue to do that. But we do not want to do that for everyone. We hope that you can honor the selection you've made, but if you need to change, you may do so. This is a big one. How will it ever be safe to open up? What can our community do to make in-person happen? I'm asking, I'm pleading with you all. We need to, as a community, come up with a collective understanding and mental model for what this word safety means. We're going to be engaging folks over the next couple of weeks. I'm asking you to tune into our board meeting on Tuesday night. We hope to welcome folks from Cornell University, the provost, and a VP. We're going to be engaging with Jason Molina from the county, Frank Krupa from the county over the coming weeks, as we hope to educate our community about what we're facing. I've heard it often. Everyone has a different definition of this word safety. And we need to come up with a collective understanding. This range of definitions we have right now has led to much of what we're dealing with. Folks don't feel safe, or they feel safe and can't convince their neighbors that it's safe. So we just need to talk about what that will mean. When I see the numbers, we had about 53% of our young people saying to come back, they wish to come back, our families wishing to come back in our spaces. When I see that number, I see that there's about 45%, 48% of our families who don't feel like it's safe enough to come back. We need to talk about that. We had about 32% of our staff members who we gave choice to, and those will be our teachers, that decided to come back. A large percentage of them have chosen to work virtually. We need to talk about what will it take to make our educators feel safe. The question has come up often, why give choice to some of our employees and not others? We know that we need virtual teachers. We want to provide that choice to teachers to decide which modality they wish to instruct in. I've said this to other employees, bus drivers, food service workers, ESPs. I've struggled to figure out how we can do some of our jobs in our organization virtually, and I'm asking for some help and some support. If folks can help me understand how, as a public institution, we can employ and pay employees to work virtually, and they are actually performing the duties, then we can explore that. But as I started with, we are challenged with our staffing right now. And that's something we are going to need to grapple with over the coming weeks in order to open up on time and in person. Another thing our community can do, in addition to having conversations with your neighbors and tuning into our conversations about what this notion of safety is, because we're in a community where many think that any cases in our community is unsafe. There's others who think that you can have less than 1% and we're safe. So we got to talk about that. We have a major holiday coming up, Labor Day. And when following the data in our region and in others around these holidays is when we typically have spikes. If we hope to open up in person on the 5th, we as a community need to be vigilant and need to practice what we've been told and the guidelines we've been given in order to keep our community safe over the upcoming holiday. So that's me in a lightning round. I covered a lot of them in there. I'm going to turn it over to you for this next one. It's about staffing. What can we do next, given the limited number of staffing, the staffing issues? What can we do next? Some thoughts there.
Sure. So as Carrie alluded to, we are going to be engaging and putting out an invitation for this Reopen ICSD team. And we're really looking for this wide range of stakeholders, including students, folks within ICSD, folks outside of the ICSD, within our Ithaca community, including health experts and others, in order to help us look at our information and really where we are and design those possible solutions. Of course, we've thought through a number of possibilities. We, of course, want to continue to collaborate with and engage with our union leadership as well as we figure out the best way forward. And so this team is going to help us design the way to bring back as many children as possible, given the situation that COVID-19 has frankly put us all in, right? So I'm looking forward to engaging with that group and making those determinations and recommendations together.
Ms. Talkie, while we're talking, what about childcare?
Indeed, that is certainly a big question, and I appreciate that folks are asking about it. I think it's obviously something that we've talked about in our other session, right? Although we don't, we're not a child care facility, we recognize that families really rely on the Ithaca City School District in order to ensure that their kids are in a safe place during the day, right? While folks go to work. So we are engaged in conversations. I wish I could say we have an absolute answer right now, but we don't. It is, of course, as one can imagine, quite complicated. But again, we're in conversation with folks, trying to figure out what solutions are out there and what solutions we might be able to co-create together.
Thank you. Ms. Burke, how about, why isn't the ICSD requiring testing of all students and/or employees?
Thank you. Yes, this is a frequently asked question. First, to begin with, testing alone is insufficient to really combat the spread of COVID-19. So we are focusing our efforts and energies on implementing multiple prevention and mitigation strategies, some of which we've already discussed, from the use of PPE to symptom and temperature screening, and to promoting behaviors that reduce spread, like physical distancing, and maintaining healthy environments and operations. So those are all important activities that we are focusing our energies and efforts on. Additionally, we play a role in identifying persons who may be presenting with symptoms of COVID or have had recent known exposures, but school staff are not expected to directly administer the SARS-CoV-2 test. It's recommended that we comply with CDC guidance and not conduct universal testing ourselves. The decision of whether a test needs to be administered is really something that needs to be determined by a healthcare provider or the Tompkins County Health Department. We do have responsibility in identifying and working closely with those entities that are responsible for testing. And so we've maintained close communication both with the health department and KU Medical Center around these very topics and issues. Testing is currently available up at the Ithaca Mall site for children and adults. It is available to essential personnel, those with symptoms, those with known exposures. And so that is information we are going to make sure to have widely available to our families and to our staff. Additionally, we're partnering with CMC around employee screening. So we're hoping to streamline and make ease access to testing for our employees who may have known exposures or symptoms.
Thank you. Stalky, can you talk about class lists and schedules and how we're going about creating those class lists and when will folks get schedules?
Great, yes, a lot of folks have questions about that, and rightly so, because we have obviously recently pivoted to beginning strictly with distance learning. We, of course, now are designing our schedules around ensuring that we can meet all kids' needs through that model. So frankly, say at the high school level, we're looking at the course selections that students made way back when, and figuring out the schedule based on those requests, as we do with any year at the high school with so many different course offerings. We of course then look at enrollment, and we have particular cutoff numbers, right, for those enrollment that for those courses that have relatively low enrollment, right, to make sure that we can accommodate but we make sure to try to accommodate as many requests as possible. So students are going to be scheduled into those classes based on those requests. There certainly have been questions about whether we're just going to have the students who selected in-person schooling be together and have students who requested distance learning be together strictly. And currently at this time, we're really focusing on creating heterogeneous, balanced, right, diverse groups of young people to learn together through this distance learning model. And that's also true at the elementary level and at the middle school level as well. So of course, that may mean shifts for October 5th, right? And we're really looking to obviously we have a number of possible draft plans and ideas, but we're really looking to that team to help guide how some of this work is going to go, right? And how we can provide, frankly, the most seamless and child-centered transition when and if we have to make that transition for our kids.
Thank you, Ms. Talcott. A couple more. Professional development. Can you speak specifically to what type of professional development is going to be occurring in September?
Yeah, we are going to focus on blended learning, those tech tools and how we utilize them in order to really amplify student learning and support those peer interactions and connections and deep academic and social emotional learning. We'll focus on culturally responsive and anti-racist teaching practices, so the ways in which we as educators are creating learning experiences that validate and affirm and also build and bridge for our young folks. And we're going to focus on integrated social emotional learning. So what are the ways in which we as educators support young people understanding their own emotions, regulating them, empathizing with others, and beyond. And also health and safety protocols, right? And building that culture together. We're going to be offering professional development during those 5 days to folks who work directly with kids in classrooms, so aides, teaching assistants, teachers, substitute teachers. And we're also providing professional development and some very specific professional development for folks like clerical, for bus drivers, food service workers, custodians, and others throughout our organization in order to support this new era and their understanding of this new era as well. So for example, we were talking this afternoon about professional learning for our front office folks in something like Canvas, so they can make sure to feel a sense of really clear understanding in order to support families and their own use of said platform. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Just to clarify, folks, this question keeps coming up. Everyone starts on September the 14th. The virtual learning is going to be for everyone. For those who've chosen to be in person, the plan right now is for them to transition on October the 5th, but everyone starts school on the 14th, just to clarify for some folks who still had that question. We have more of these sessions like this one, and each time we do them, different questions come up. We address different questions. We have another one tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and then another one at noon tomorrow. Please tune in, log into those sessions to hear more. And also, I'll invite you to our Board of Education meeting on this upcoming Tuesday. You can see the Board of Education schedule on our website, where this has been a major topic for our Board of Education to grapple with and our team to share updates and information. Again, thank you all so much for joining this evening, and we look forward to continuing this conversation, and we look forward to engaging with you as you're helping us think through this, and we can use and need your support as we navigate these unprecedented and challenging times in the midst of a global pandemic. Again, thank you. Good evening.